Hello everybody, so you can see from the title, where do you want to be in 3 years time? No, I haven't just thought of that. If you've been through any sort of coding interviews online, for a remote coder's job or even one on site, you may well get asked, where do you want to be in 3 years time? They may say 5 years time, and I don't believe there's any right or wrong answer to this, but it's kind of, it's an open question. So you get open questions and closed questions. If you're not familiar with the difference, then you can check that out separately. I won't go into that. But basically an open question is one that you can't answer yes or no to. It's got a much bigger answer than that. So where do you want to be in 3 years time? Quite an important question really, because if you answer that you want to be CEO of the company, then that really probably suggests that you aren't really into coding as such. You are just trying to work your way up the ladder. I don't believe that many people would say that, to be honest. So it's still worth having a good answer to. And to be honest, I've just started this video, and what I should have done was actually let's just do a new window and check where do you want to be in 3 years time. And if anyone follows this channel, you might notice I typed that a bit quicker. I've been trying to learn touch typing, so yeah, useful tip. If you've got a bit of spare time, it'll save you hours in the long run. Right, where do you see yourself? Oh, the next 2 years. Glassdoor. How to answer the question, where do you see? So, waiting for this to load. Most professionals will get the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I've only actually been asked this recently, so I don't know whether I've been living in the dark ages or what, but here we go. While you may not know exactly where you want to be in the next few years, being prepared to answer this question will set you up for success and help support an overall productive interview. When an interviewer asks you about your professional goals for the next 5 years, they do so to gain understanding of a few different things. They often want to learn the following. If you'll stick with the company for at least 5 years, the longer the employee stays with the company, so obviously companies want people to stay with them for a long time. That's perfectly valid. The reason I'm going into this is not actually just for anybody considering getting a job. It's more, it's broader than that. It's really just think about it, even if you want to be a freelancer, if you want to be... Has anyone heard of NEAT? I'm going off on a tangent here, but you might find it of interest. And NEAT stands for, so it's an acronym, and it stands for not in education, employment, or training. It refers to a person who is unemployed and not receiving an education or vocational training. The classification originated in the United Kingdom in the late 1990s and has spread in varying degrees to other countries. So, yeah, are you in NEAT, not in education or vocational training? Anyway, back to this. If you start in one position and have a goal of transferring to a completely different position in another department or field, you want to know if that is an option with the employer. And to be honest, that's probably not a good thing to say to them anyway, even if that is your intention, because it kind of shows that your heart's not really in it, not in the position that you're applying for. Get clear about your career goals. Now really, this is a website called glassdoor.co.uk. It's where people leave reviews, ex-employees leave reviews of their job that they did and the company. It's quite binary. Obviously some people loved their job they were with and other people don't. So yeah, you get quite strong opinions. So find connections between your goals and the job description. No. In 5 years, here's an example. My ultimate goal for the next 5 years is to master my position and advance into a managerial role within the department. I was drawn to the personalised training approach, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of business speak. And really, I actually think if you want to do code, then just say you want to be a senior coder. You want to be a senior coder in 5 years' time. Um, yeah, I'll get to this later. Right, so let's just go back to... That's the question. I think we've kind of answered that. We just want to say that we want to be senior coder. And I think that's a valid answer, and I don't think it's going to get you into trouble or raise too many eyebrows. And to be honest, if that's your ambition, I think that's definitely it's going to pay well. You will master your profession within 3 years. Hopefully, what's that? 3 years. So let me just bring up a calculator. I could write a program to do it, really. Joking. Right, let's just do, so if we're doing, say we were doing coding 40 hours a week, times, say, 48 weeks a year. Okay, so that's nearly, call that 2,000 hours a year. So, yeah, even if you was, okay, assume you've got 2 years experience under your belt. So within 3 years, if you start with 4,000 hours of experience, after 3 years, you'll have your 10,000. And 10,000 hours is commonly cited as the time it takes to become an expert. So, yeah. 3 years' time, senior coder, expert coder. I think that's a valid ambition. What is your philosophy? This is just me kind of setting up some questions to talk about here. And what is your goal? What's your philosophy? So this doesn't apply, this isn't intended to be an interview question. This is more just something to ask yourself if you're watching this video, really. What is your philosophy? No. These two are just kind of my opinions. Don't chase the money, because it will get you in a cul-de-sac where you think you're going to be well paid, and then the goalposts will move and you'll end up doing a job you don't like, and it's not the best paying anymore either because things have moved on. I'll get to that in a minute. And also Wu Wei. If you don't know what that is, I'll get to that in a minute, but yeah, I'm not being facetious. That's actually it's to do with flow, and flow is to do with doing something that you enjoy without being stressed, and you need to be competent, and then it just feels easy, but it's easy and challenging and enjoyable. So I think that's the ultimate goal. Anyway, what is your goal? Don't say money, because as I say, the goalposts will move, and then you won't be doing a job that pays the best wages, and you'll be doing a job you don't enjoy. Right, let's just, I saved this a couple of years ago off of Medium. And why did I save it? I saved it because I wanted to justify why I was attempting to make a slight career change. I had Linux skills. I'd worked in IT in general for a long time. I'd started off coding with Visual Basic, bit of Delphi, bit of Linux, CAD. Anyway, having spent lots of money training and taking professional exams to be a network engineer, I kind of accepted, or I realized that part of the reason I'd done it was because the money was fairly good at the time. However, I gradually realized that I didn't actually enjoy it, and it wasn't so much the actual act of doing the engineering on networks. It was more kind of the fact that you had to go to data centers with big cardboard boxes, you had to stay there till midnight fixing things, you had to be close to the data center, so you couldn't always get a good remote work from home job because quite often you had to live close to the data center. Yeah, weekend work and so on. On-call, 24/7 on-call was not enjoyable either, especially if you'd done a whole day's work and then you got called just as you got to sleep, and then you had to stay up through the night staring at a laptop screen with sore eyes until 4 a.m. and also, I don't know, it's just made you very irritable if you don't get enough sleep. Obviously you can see that I'm not in my 20s. I know that's hard to believe, but the longer you go on in life, you realize that sleep is very, very important. And if you're listening to this video now to help yourself get to sleep, good on you. Anyway, is network engineering is dying except at cloud providers? And I read this and I just totally agreed with it as soon as I read it. Now I know you're here probably because you're interested in coding, but I just want to use this. If you substitute, I don't know, Java, or just this is just an example of how things change within maybe 2 years. So obviously network engineering has been massively affected by cloud. And in the same way that network engineering has been affected by migration to the cloud, then obviously so is other, things, including coding. The practice of coding has changed because of cloud. Now, if you want to be a coder, it helps if you have some experience of AWS, really, or Azure. Anyway, I'll quickly skim through this, because if you want it, you can probably Google this and still find it somewhere if you've got enough credits on your Medium. Anyway, I'm just going to go through it. This past week, I spoke to a recruiter for one of the gang of 4 largest companies in tech. The recruiter pitched me on a network engineering role, something I've happily done for years now. Okay. For the past 20 years, network engineering teams from most companies have maintained the networks that connect computers which serve up every internet service we interact with every day. Network engineers make sure redundancies exist for inevitable failures of network that plans the globe. Yeah, unless you work for Facebook, and then they don't seem to have very good redundancy, do they? And they verify the health of all the hardware devices and interfaces which run on a network. The common analogy for network engineering is building the roads for the application, i.e. the cars to drive upon. These jobs have been stable, profitable, integral to the growth, stability of any company that wants to use the internet and drive its business. Read, i.e. all of them. Most would jump at the opportunity to take any job at these companies. These jobs sparkle on we call them CVs in England, but resumes. And even if the day-to-day is similar to most other jobs in the industry, the looming profile of these companies have in the news cycle mean it'd be foolish to write off an employment opportunity like this one. However, the world of network engineering is changing. Many would say dying. So here we go. And I wholeheartedly agree with this, but if I'm boring you because I'm talking about network engineering, just hang in there, because this is also about the kind of the dominance of anything to do with the cloud. Obviously there's niches, sort of MOD stuff and private kind of stuff that's confidential stuff that may not run on. But I think even, I read that even GCHQ in the UK is going to be using AWS, which I find amazing, or not amazing in a good way. Anyway, that's just an opinion. With the exception of maybe a dozen companies on the planet, nearly every company is moving away from physical data centers. IT orgs struggle with the long lead times required to make changes in physical data centers, purchasing hardware, organizing cabling standards, so like Cat 6, low smoke, halogen, blah blah blah. Cooling, now it's all got to be eco, so you'd be shot down in flames if it's not. 24/7 staffing, so paying people to be on call, even if they're reluctantly on call. And because nobody wants to be on call 24/7, you have to pay them, you have to pay them danger money. And dozens of other concerns are simply avoided by moving to the cloud. Ironically, the only companies that aren't decreasing their data center footprint, the cloud providers. So if you live near to a capital city in whichever country you're in, then you might be able to get a really good data center job with a cloud provider, and good on you. But most countries probably only have one, maybe two, or most, they call them zones and regions, don't they? So, and typically, I think, was it with the Oracle, the zones are typically 160 kilometers apart. So, you're not going to get one in London, for instance, and then one just down the road in Reading or whatever. You're not going to be able to take your pick on where you work, really. So, either live in a capital city or you're done for. Let's skip to the summary anyway. If you have the opportunity to work in these divisions at cloud providers, good luck to you. But I hope you consider my points above about career lock-in. So you're going to be tied to pretty much, geographically, you're going to be tied to living in London, Paris, Madrid, wherever, New York. So obviously if America, maybe you might have 2 cities, so it could be New York or San Francisco maybe, but you're still geographically tied. And as I've mentioned it a couple of times before, just because of the house prices and the problems with inflation, the cost of living is just going through the roof, so you're going to need to be paid a lot to even live in the city, and because the prices in the city are so expensive, you're probably going to have to commute, so then you're going to spend an hour or two on a train each day or whatever. So you need to think about all this. So your career must be played as a strategic long game, and these jobs might be the wrong move. Right, so this is end of part 1. So next, part 2, we're going to look at a video I've just watched, which I think is worth talking about because I really agree with it. Okay, so we've established that you need to have a kind of a goal and a philosophy, and it's not always wise to chase the money. And that as time passes, then the lucrative jobs may not be so lucrative in the future, in which case you may have to move to a capital city, and you may not want to do it anymore because just migration to the cloud. And right, let's get to this video, which I've just watched on YouTube, and is one of my favorite channels. You've probably seen. I'm not being paid to promote this, by the way. So, but I think this book is amazing. It's not the thickest book, and kind of when I got it, I thought, wow, that's about half the thickness of some of the other no-starch books. But obviously, because it's one-liners, why would it be thick? And just because it's not such a thick book, to be honest, it's I don't know. In some ways, it's nicer because it's not so daunting. Anyway, why am I talking about that? Because the author of this book, can you see there, Christian Mayer? This is Christian on his YouTube channel, and he's talking about he talks a lot about Upwork, and I'm hoping he's watched my video and I inspired him to talk about Python jobs and so on. But here he's not actually talking about Python really. He's talking about database administrator jobs, and he's looking at trends. And obviously, depending on if you're about to start learning something new, then you want to know that it's kind of got a future. And there we go, database administrator jobs. You can see he's talking about the way that yeah, I think that's Google Trends. Yeah, and you can see it's really dropping off 100% in 2004. 2012 was down to 25%. Now it's down to about 12.5%. And he actually mentions Oracle with AI on their databases and how there's going to be less need for DB admins. Now he then talks about how you could place yourself as into a niche and support databases because potentially not so many people are doing it now. Depends if you enjoy it, but potentially as time goes by, it may be that work could dry up. And then he talks about if you just get 1 or 2 customers and then offer them the full service, basically upgrades, chasing bugs, long-term basis. So then he talks about the future trends really, and he also says that Python is not, I think it peaked in search popularity around about 2019. And why is that? Obviously people haven't stopped searching for it. It's down to kind of 75% of what it was being searched for in 2019. Maybe the pandemic's changed the state of play. Anyway, that's that video, and if you're interested, it's $75 an hour as a DB admin in a dying niche on Upwork. So yeah, and again, it's been affected by the cloud. So he also talks about Java, and you can see the massive drop off with the interest in Java there. And obviously, if you've got those skills and you're very niche, then it's I mean, if you're a COBOL programmer, you can probably go and work for the US Federal Reserve and earn absolute millions maybe. But in general, you probably want to just be thinking about future-proofing what you're learning about. And yeah, Christian mentions in his video, which I would also agree with, obviously learn Python, and once you learn one kind of main language, then you understand problem solving. So to be honest, don't get too obsessed with the language. So then he talks about blockchain, automation, machine learning, and business application development. So depending on what your strengths are, then if you're strong in one of these areas, then you're going to find it more enjoyable, less of a struggle, and then you are going to flow. And this is what Wu Wei is about. So let's just, I'm just going to go back and bring that up because I think it is important. It may seem a bit out there, but let's go. Wu Wei. It's about flow. And actually, I think in the previous video, Christian talked about flow. And something that I've been talking, well, with CodeMonkey King, he's much more open to Eastern, less kind of invested in Western consciousness and more open to the Eastern consciousness. And yeah, there we go. Wu Wei means inaction or effort. So inaction, it probably translates in the Western world to kind of sitting around smoking a spliff and doing nothing, which probably isn't, how should we say, it's not a goal to aspire to probably, but effortless action. Now effortless action is if you put in your 10,000 hours and you can do something without feeling the need, without getting bored, without feeling stressed. So there's a happy place in between being bored, being stressed. So if it's too difficult, you're going to be really stressed. If it's too easy, you're going to be really bored. So you want somewhere in between. So you want to come up here, and that's flow. Here we go. So I like this definition, and if CodeMonkey King's watching, I'd be interested if he makes or mentions a response to this, because yeah, I've got a Western mindset really, and as much as I would like to experience another mindset, I think you're pretty much restricted by how you grow up. So where you grow up. So a technique by means of which one who practices it may gain enhanced control of human affairs. Apply that to coding. A technique by which one practices coding may gain enhanced control of their coding. So I won't labour that point. That may be a bit out there. So anyway, keep an eye on trends. Python, blockchain. So right, there's probably a lot of confusion between blockchain, Bitcoin, crypto. So I've got my own bias, and I think obviously at the moment, since the start of January, there's been effectively a bit of a crash in cryptocurrencies, including blockchain, including Bitcoin, including Ethereum. If you're interested in coding and maybe working for a startup and starting on something like smart contracts or NFTs, you know, with the latest hot topics, then as you can see, I've done a couple of videos on NFTs. Really, it wasn't kind of, it wasn't really to encourage people to trade them or to buy them. Really, it was just to show how you would code a collection, and it was more of a me demonstrating how you can automate the creation of thousands of different images. And if you follow this channel, you probably know one of my most popular videos is the automation of Word documents from a template and inserting unique information, typically from one row in a CSV being read into a Ginger template, Word template, and creating many Word documents. So yeah, again, the NFTs was linked with Ethereum. Ethereum uses blockchain. If you want investment advice, I'm not really going to give it. If you want my opinion on where to invest, all I would say is that Bitcoin is decentralized. I'll leave it at that. Bitcoin is decentralized. Just have a think about that, and then look at any other blockchain and what you're looking at, whether it's Ethereum, Cardano, Dogecoin, whatever. Anything other than Bitcoin is often referred to as a coin or an altcoin. There's a reason. Anyway, I'm not here to preach about Bitcoin being better than the others. From what I've gathered so far, I think code-wise, it might actually be better looking at Ethereum if you want to make a living doing coding with blockchain. And I've done a little video showing you Solidity. I think Finkster's shown some videos about Solidity. So if that interests you, then that's something you could pursue. Automation. Typically automation will be, sort of, it could be anything. It could be OpenCV, image recognition. It's even too big to even begin to throw examples out there. Now, machine learning is kind of, if you want to learn machine learning, then this is probably a good book if you're not doing a computer science degree. That one thing I also would say is if you're young and you want a career in machine learning, data science or whatever, do have a look at the job descriptions, the job adverts. And if you're sitting on the fence about going to university, well, yeah, I know in the UK it's sort of £27,000 to pay for the tuition fees for 3 years, which is probably, typically a year's salary for a lot of people. So once you graduate, so if you want to rack up a debt of 1 year's salary, and you think you can pay it back once you leave? Yeah. I mean, look at the salaries of some of the Python developer jobs in, 50, 60, 80, 100,000 pounds per year, which is amazing. And if you've got that computer science degree, and then you're really good, so you could go off and earn a fortune, and good luck to you. But if you are trying to learn machine learning, AI, then it's, yeah, it probably is worth doing a computer science degree, because if you don't have it, you're going to need to have at least covered the same topics in depth, done as many projects in your own time. And if you're working, how are you really going to squeeze in 3 years worth of projects, research, and so on? It's going to take you longer, and obviously if it takes you longer, it's going to take you, that's going to delay the time until you can start earning the nice salary. So yeah, if you're 20, sitting on the fence, then really look at what you could earn once you graduate, and then make that your goal for 3 years' time. So again, the 3 years is quite a magical number, really, because it ties in with university courses and so on. What if you don't like it, or what if you get bored of it? Well, I think if you learn anything to do with coding, you can probably use what you know in many other types of work. So, if you decide that machine learning's not for you, but you want to go off and be an accountant, well, yeah, I think the amount of stuff you can do to automate Excel with Python is pretty powerful. So yeah, you can apply these to other careers, even if you decide that IT's coding, whatever's not for you. So yeah, don't be put off, but think about trends, flow. So it's that choice between being too boring and being too difficult. You want something in the middle where you're still learning, but it's not boring. It doesn't bore you. And everybody's interpretation of boring is different. Some people might think this video is boring, and that's your opinion. So if it's boring, you've probably already left this video already, and you're now watching somebody scratch their chin and point upwards as they kind of look at, I don't know, something in their thumbnail. This is kind of like an open forum, so if you've got any opinions, please do comment. This video is intended to stir up some comments, conversation. I would like to know other people's opinions on this as well. Is it worth getting a computer science degree? Is it worth learning Solidity, working on the blockchain? The benefit, and this goes back to how things change, I think Christian said, the benefit of learning blockchain or coding blockchain is that it's very new. So if somebody out there has already been doing it, chances are they've only been doing it for 2 years. So the difference between you and them is 2 years. And then 4 years time, they'll have four years experience and you'll have 2, so that's not too bad. If someone has been doing, you know, data science for 10 years and you're only starting it, in 3 years time, you'll have 3 years experience and they'll have 13. So it's a much more difficult gap to try and close, which you know you'll never do. So yeah, don't chase the money. Look at new sectors that are growing. Keep an eye on the trends, because if you jump into a new sector, there'll be a smaller gap between what you know and everyone else who's jumping on the, I won't say bandwagon, but you know what I mean. Jumping on the bandwagon means kind of going with the latest trends. And there's nothing wrong with going with trends, but don't go with a new trend because you want to chase the money, because as I say, over time that trend may decrease and so will the money. So if you don't care, and you think in 5 years time you don't care if it won't pay so much because you enjoy it so much, then yeah, you got the woo-wee. Thank you for watching. If you've got any opinions, please add some comments. And if you think, well, I'll just do web scraping, that's also interesting to know. And how do you think web scraping is going to change, and where do you think that will be in 3 years time? I would genuinely love to know how you think web scraping will be in 3 years time. Will there be too many people who do ML, machine learning? Trouble is, the more people that do it, the better you will need to be to stand out. And if you're competing against 50 million people in the world, well, to be in the top 1%, it's going to be, you're going to have to be in what? Is that top 50,000? I can't think of it off the top of my head. I'm too busy talking. But yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you want to see Christian's video, then also have a look at that. I've covered a bit of what he said here, but also think about where you want to be in 3 years' time. If you can answer that truthfully, good. If you can't, at least if you think about it, it's gonna sort of start some thoughts in your head, and it's gonna maybe make you do some research. Yeah, going back to finance, the caveat that everybody will ever say who gives financial advice will be, I don't know if you've ever seen it, it is DYOR. And that stands for do your own research. So yeah, research is kind of important in whatever you're planning on doing, but hopefully you've watched this video and I've given you some inspiration. If not inspiration, just made you think. And can you answer this question? Can you answer those 2 questions? To be honest with you, even now I can't 100% answer these questions, but at least if you're aware of these questions, you'll try and steer yourself towards them. So yeah, I've said enough. Thank you for watching. Please comment and subscribe. Thank you. See you soon.